They say if you want to hide something important from an African, hide it in books. Today, we want to hear a different view of the same from Gabriel Dinda, who is the founder of Writers Guild. Hi, Gabriel.
Hi, Vicky. How are you?
I'm fine.
Thank you for giving us a chance to give a different view of the statement you have mentioned, which we found very disturbing and we still find very disturbing.
Wow. So, Gabriel,
Yes.
as we all know, everything has a background. What you do today has a story from maybe your childhood or your teen. So, what is your background?
Well, well, um, I grew up in a village in Homa Bay. Mhm. Um, and I remember going to primary school, Loraten Primary School and Majiwa Primary School. I can't trace or I can't remember any special memories with books at the time because the free primary education had just come and the books were just getting to be available in schools. So I didn't get a lot of exposure with books. But when I was in secondary school, I got quite a number of books from my secondary school, St. Joseph's Rapogi. And I remember taking care of cows when reading. That is when I read my first Kiswahili novel to completion, Siku Njema by Ken Walibora, Professor. May his soul rest in peace. And many other books. So when I look at my background or when I reflect on my background, especially when I narrow it down to books, those are the memories I have for books.
So, Gabriel, there's this fire in you to deconstruct this notion that if you want to hide something from an African, hide it in books. At what point in your journey did you realize that you need to deconstruct this notion?
Well done. So Writers Guild was formed on a day like today, on 16th June, on my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And it was a very interesting thing because I had this idea. I called it Writers Academy. So remember the group of friends I mentioned who were reaching out with questions at first. So I was thinking, how about we form an academy where you can read my work, I can read your work, and then we can build each other as writers. And our notion or our wish was we, just me and you, two unexperienced people, but willing to help each other.
Yes.
Now, I had it. How do I start? Should I form a company? Should I start a writers club? How should I start? So those questions were, I had those questions then. And then on 16th June 2014, I thought, I've thought about this for too long. How about I just call this my friends and anyone else to come for a meeting. Then we discuss the details later on. So that is on 16th June that day. And I was bored. I didn't know anything to. I didn't have an idea of anything to do on my birthday. Yeah. So I just thought this is such a good day to call them, and then we start off. So I called them in the evening, and then we started off. So that day I just told them, my wish is that we start a writers club or a writers academy where you read my work, I read your work, and we build each other. We encourage each other to read. You share a book with me, I share a book with you. Yes. We read together. And then we deconstruct this notion that Africans don't read. We do activities together, we go to schools, we encourage reading generally. So then when I got support, most of the friends said, yeah, this is a good idea, this is a good thing. I said, well done, let's start off. Yeah? And that's how Writers Guild started.
So you have shared the story of Writers Guild, which emanates from 2014 on your birthday, yes. Right? So 7 years down the line, what impact has been created? How does the journey look like?
Well, Writers, from that moment on 16th June 2014, first, the semester was just coming to an end at the time. So we started our first activity on 13th September 2014. Mm-hmm. And we started from a magazine because that is what we knew how to do at the time. That is what I knew how to do. So we started from a magazine called All Senses Magazine, where we invited this group and any other person to write an article that will inspire or will encourage someone, and then we publish. So we started, And I remember on that event, our guest was Mr. Kinyajui Kombani, who is an accomplished writer and a great mentor at Writers Guild. He was our guest then. So we started off from there. And then we registered as a club in Kenyatta University at the time. And we got a lot of members and a lot of interest. We were doing very interesting activities. That was the unique thing. We realized that other clubs were doing the same things. So we wanted to do different activities. So I remember one of such was called Tujuane, where you come shiny and jovial, and then we go somewhere out in an outdoor place, and then we discuss writing. We called it Writing in the Jungle. Yes? Writing in the Jungle. It was very interesting, and we still do it. So we started from there. We started from the magazine, gave people a chance to write. And then in 2015, decided to take this narrative out there. So we started working in different universities, went to Eldoret, went to Mombasa, went to other universities within Nairobi to just sell this idea that of encouraging reading and growing writing, guiding writers. Yeah, so in 2015, I was recognized by KCA University and African Garage as top 25 under 25 leader, because at the time a number of our writers were already engaged productively. So they were writing for companies, writing for magazines, and they were being paid. So we had created employment, actually 33 at the time. So we created employment, and then so they thought, it's an area that can be scaled up. It can productively engage people writing. So I was given an award, and that gave us a push to the national platform, because now the media, there were quite a lot of coverage. What is this Writers Guild? What is it doing? How unique is it? Yeah, so that gave us more view and more publicity. And then in 2015, also we, from that award, and also I'd graduated from KU because I'd finished my studies. So we got a chance to be hosted at I&M building. That's where our offices were. So when we got there, and I'm very happy that you know this quite well because you are right in the middle of it. Yeah, when we got there, we thought, what can we do? What can we do with writing? So we thought of coming up with an event called Writers Ecclesia, taking place once a week. So you can work within the week, and then at the end of the week, come meet other writers, meet other editors, meet other people in the writing field, and grow as a writer. Share with them, share your work, let them read, let me read, such a thing. So we started Writers Ecclesia, which became very famous. So every Friday, writers would come, and you would have very nice, very lovely snacks. So people would come and relax and feel at home. In fact, from then till now, we have always said, welcome home. So as a writer, you are an orphan if you are not in Writers Guild. You should always come home, so that we can grow together, we can take this word out there. So that was the idea. And then that went towards the end of 2016, we now had to look for another venue, and then we secured a partnership with National Museums of Kenya, which allowed us to use all museums in Kenya to preserve heritage through writing. So we realized we do two things which are very related. We try to encourage people to tell their stories, to preserve our culture, to preserve our heritage. And the museum does the same thing to preserve Kenya's heritage. And we thought we can work together here. So all these our books, if you want them, they are found at museums. So we publish, we write our stories, we give them to preserve. And then any of the people they come across who has an interesting idea that needs to be written, we guide them to write. So that is the kind of partnership that we had, which still runs to date. So we use wherever museum is, there is Writers Guild. So we started that journey using museum every other Friday to encourage writing. Quite a number of events and activities we did. Book launches. We had this book, the book launch of this at Unfit for Society at National Museums, and quite a number of our books as well. Yeah. And then in 2016, something interesting also happened. We worked with our friends from Germany, Elimu Inayokuza Maendeleo. That is the name of the organization that we worked with in a project. And they were very happy with our work. our poets performed in the workshop, the workshop that we were presenting, that where we were presenting the work that had been done. And they thought, how about this to be published? And they supported us generously to publish the work of the poets that we had. And that is when, on 24th June 2016, we launched a book, Through the Journey of Hope. Mm-hmm. Yeah, our first collection. No, we don't have it here. But yeah, that was our first book, our first publication. And then around that time, the first group of writers who had joined Writers Guild were also ready. They were ready to publish. So after the launch, many people now came to us with manuscripts. I have this, I would love to publish it. I have this. It doesn't fall in the scope of publishers in Kenya, but I would love to publish it. And it's a good story. And then in 2017, we started publishing unit, self-publishing unit, where we would help and guide people to publish and guide them through publishing. So from then, we've published many books. Now we have published 36 books. Our writers, first-time authors, published by Writers Guild. And then we have 111 authors, members of Writers Guild, who have published elsewhere. Yeah? So in Writers Guild, you are free. You can publish elsewhere. You can go to, because different writers have different genres. They write in different areas, some of which are academic books, which are best published by established publishers and all that.
The likes of Unia?
Yes, the likes of Unia, the likes of Vera, Omocha, the likes of Munira. Munira's published with Longhorn. Yeah. Vera's published with Queenex. Yeah. So we have 111 of such who have published elsewhere. And then, so we started a publishing unit then. And then 2018, a number of our writers came and asked us whether we have, let's say, a short program that they can do without necessarily having to be our members for a year because of their special circumstances. And then that is the time when we developed a course, a program called Write Your Passion Program, and started offering the trainings in Strathmore University, because now we shifted our training center to Strathmore University. So that's what we've been doing since then. We've graduated 64 authors now from the program. Started another program called Teens Write. Graduated 16 young teens between the ages of 10 and 19 who are already interested in writing. Yeah? Some of them, we have Andrew Gashagwa, who has written a poetry anthology. Yeah. And started also other program called Writing for Smart Professionals, where we just guide professionals to develop their writing skills. So when you are in the office, emails, reports, and all that, we guide you so that you can write better. So that is 2018. And then 2019, now we have many books we have published. Many authors also look up to us to help them distribute. Yes. We share these books in our platforms every time we have trainings. And then we think of how about we start an all-African bookshop where you can get a local book, which are hardly found because currently the setup doesn't favor much the local authors. Many bookshops, many book distributors feel that there is no market for local stories, yet there is a yearning for market for local stories. So that is how we ended up here. And today we are doing this from the All-African Bookshop, possibly the first bookshop of such nature in Africa.
So I walked into this place and I came face to face with this very beautiful bookshop. All African bookshop stocked with amazing African literature. For how long has this bookshop been in existence?
Well, the bookshop, if you were to summarize it in a word, you'd say Tintoler. Yes.
Is that true?
Yes.
Maybe.
Well, you will have to find out. Okay. Well, we've been here for a month now. We opened our doors on 15th May 2021, and today 16th June 2021. We are here for a month, and we now even regret it why we didn't start it earlier.
Because the reception has been huge, I suppose.
Yes, very huge. People are very happy. I tell you, You may have seen them just within the time you are here. People are always here. Some consulting, I have this book or I have this manuscript. How do I get it out there? And others having their books here. You may have seen very good books, very good stories you can relate to. This is what we've always desired.
Gabriel, there's this passion in you about African literature. And by the feel of that passion, I'm tempted to ask, what did you study at Kenyatta University? And does it at all relate with what you do today?
Yes, it does relate. So in Kenyatta University, I studied Bachelor of Economics and Finance.
Yes.
And also studied CPA at Strathmore University. And then went back to Strathmore University for my master's in applied philosophy and ethics.
Yes.
Yes, so clearly you can see the fields are related in one way or another. And how are they related to books? Well, I feel for a long time, people have looked at books just from the perspective of, let's say, literature, just that. But I feel 21st century is slightly, the dynamics are a bit different.
Yes.
Many people now look at books as a product. Look, let's, for instance, let's use this book, for instance, 10 Steps to Freelance Online. This is a story of insights from an illiterate watchman who became a top-rated freelance copywriter. Now, ordinarily, when I talk about books, you'll just think literature and all that, or maybe the non-fiction. But now, there is this notion of books where you use books, let's say, to farm up an idea. You see, the idea of online, freelance online, this is a non-fiction book.
Yes.
So the idea of freelancing online is something that is a 21st century concept. Now, how can we tell such stories in books, or how can we capture such experiences in books in a way that books can be educative, not only from fiction point of view, but even non-fiction point of view. So I believe what I studied and what I practice is quite related to books, because books need much more than just the, let's say, the stylistic devices, the characters. Books need much more thinking. Even for us to sustain this industry, book industry, we need even to think like businesses. Yeah. We need to think and act as such. Yeah. So that's why I feel what I studied is quite related to what I'm doing at the moment.
When I walked into this place, I met vibrant faces of Florence and Effie. The place looks so beautiful. And I'm tempted to ask, have you faced any challenges in your journey so far?
Well, possibly I didn't mention. Currently, from 2014 till now, Writers Guild has a cumulative membership of writers of 3,071 as at this time of the interview. Yeah. And they are spread across the country. We have also 7 from Uganda and 9 from Rwanda. That is as we speak now. So, well, clearly you'd possibly there are challenges within the journey, and most of the challenges we have are of the perception. I would say perception of people towards writing. Yes. Today, Abby, if you went out there and told someone that you are a writer, they'll ask you, what else do you do? What do you do? I know you are a writer, yes, but what do you do? So, and this is not a mistake of the society. We are just conditioned that writing is not something that you can live on. Writing is not something that you can do professionally. Yes. That writing is not something that you can be proud of. So you can only do writing on the side after you've done everything else. When you are tired, then now you can write. Yeah. Now, such perceptions are a bit disturbing, I have to say, because writing is such a noble act. Yes. Imagine, like for Daniel Ongera, he has immortalized the story as written here for many centuries to come. Yes. Today we read Shakespeare for 50 years down the line. Well, what a noble career, what a noble journey, what a noble way to keep our story. So we are a bit disturbed that people still look at writing as just as a hobby. It can be a hobby, but not just as a hobby. Yes. So the perception for many people out there sometimes trouble us a bit. That is one area. Then two, we are also sometimes disturbed by, let's say, lack of structural support to writers in Kenya, in Kenya and beyond. So one person one day said, this is an author who was coming to Writers Guild for help. And when she came in, she just said one thing: I made a mistake to be a writer in Kenya. Wow. I made a mistake to be a writer in Kenya. Why? I will tell you from different levels. If you wrote something, possibly your family will first feel at a loss that, oh my goodness, I think you'd have been better in another career. What a waste. That is the first perception. The second perception would be, maybe if you go to school or maybe you present it to one of your teachers, they'll tell you, no, I want an A from you. Okay? So concentrate on your studies. Okay? So lack of support may succeed to frustrate you out of writing. That is very sad, because that is the case for many. I remember one of the students in our class called Lillian Mwinde. One day came to class and said, after the first class, he said, this is what I've desired. This is what I've longed to do for the past 20 years. Today, when I was writing my story, I felt I was alive. And she says she's tried to publish and write her story for the past 20 years. The challenges she's had, or the lack of support she's had, is such are very discouraging. So we need to have this supporting structure from our families, from our institutions. I'm always very encouraged when I hear, let's say, an institution has a library within their premises, so you can go and read and sharpen your skills and write. Now, that support possibly also is not, sometimes is not felt even from the local publishers, from the current publishers. Some of them have done a good job to support local authors, but you'd be shocked. Some of them don't even have a structure to support upcoming authors. What they do, they just wait for unsolicited manuscripts. But if you went there, possibly they'll reject your work and not tell you why. But if I told you that I reject it because 1, 2, 3, 4, it would build you, it would support you. Some of lack of that support, the structural support, sometimes come from bookshops. So you take your book there, and then they ask, see, who are you? Or who is, let's say, Oma Ombara? Who is this? You see? So it's a bit sad. There could be valid reasons, but that should be communicated and you should be helped. And that's why Writers Guild is very keen on helping those who are starting out in their writing journey and bridging the gap. So those who have written for some time, to support those who are growing. This lack of support is even in terms of, let's say, government initiatives. There are many initiatives. There are many countries like Norway. If you published your book in Norway, government would become your first buyer. I don't know if you knew that. They would buy the first 1,000 copies. So you are guaranteed that you will be supported. But here, in our context, in Kenya, which represents the context in Africa, the support is not strong. And this maybe is the case in other areas, but the support, the incentives is not as strong as it is in other contexts. So this is also discouraging. And also other things which are policy related, like tax on paper. Have you ever realized that books published and printed in Kenya are slightly more expensive than books from out there? That's why you find many foreign books on the street. Wow. But you can't find, you find very few local books on the streets. Partly because of the cost of paper. There is tax, 16% VAT on paper. When you tax paper, you tax knowledge. And when you tax knowledge, you tax a generation. So it's a bit sad. So such are some of the ideas that when we reflect on our journey, we wish they were better. We wish there were more support for that person in Samburu, or that person in Bunyore, or that person in Homa Bay who wants to write. We wish there was a way to push them. And that's what Writers Guild honestly wants to do. And that's what we've been doing for the past 7 years.
From the time we began the conversation, everything seems like your greatest highlight, you know. So I'm tempted to ask, what is your greatest highlight in this journey of 1,000 miles?
Well, the greatest highlight would be related to what you've just mentioned. I tell you, every time I come in here and I just, let's say, remember Douglas Logedi. Douglas Logedi, I met him when he was still a student at Kenyatta University. And Douglas, now the author of Chasing a Bullet and Shadow of a Bullet.
A very interesting book.
Yes, you've read it, huh?
Yes, I've read it.
So every time I look at this, and I remember where we started with Douglas, he didn't think he would be a writer because he had this wrong notion that my story is not worth telling. I don't have a story. You see, we always think that maybe the people who have stories are the ministers, the government officials, and diplomats. And no. We all have stories, and your story is as valid as mine.
Yes.
Now we rob the next generation by not telling the stories. Yeah. So when I look at people like Douglas, yeah, when I look like, let's say, Omwambara, accomplished journalist, tell her story, her experience. When I look at a book like by Damaris Aguayo, different parts, one journey, capturing different stories of different people from different angles. Yes. When I look at my book, Questions of My Youth, when I look at these books by Writers Guild, or Diary of the Miaha by Vera Mocha, you see, Vera tells the story of our 1 year in marriage. Yes. Yeah, she decided to capture it in the book. Very interesting.
And the launch was beautiful.
Thank you. So when I look at these books that would have never been there if Writers Guild was not there, I get encouraged. I say, this is it, we need more. And that's why our intention is to have 1 million writers by 2030 in Kenya. I'm telling you, ambitious, but we are on it.
So Gabriel, you have offered a home to budding writers and underdogs, as you call them. And there's this other category of people who are finding it a challenge to read. And as we all know, reading and writing go hand in hand. What word of advice would you give those who are finding it a challenge to read?
Now, where do you start if you want to start reading? Everyone who comes here, everyone who visits us, we give them something. We call it power to read. Yeah. So someone made fun at some point that in university, so when you graduate, you are given power to read, but you're not given a book. Yes. So the book is, you look for it. But so when you come, we give you this thing called power to read. It's a bookmark, and it has guidelines on where to start if you want to read. Now, the first point is ask for book recommendations. Yes, so the first thing you need to do is ask for book recommendations. Sometimes you start reading, but you start from a wrong footing. Maybe you start from a book that is not very interesting to you. So ask from your friend, your mentor, someone who knows you very well. Which book can interest you? And maybe someone who likes reading, they may have read a lot and they like the book that will interest you. Ask for book recommendations. And if you ask from Writers Guild, we will recommend a small book. Yeah, just like feeding a little baby. You start with light food and then as you progress. So you start with a small book, interesting, then you progress. So ask for book recommendations, then set a specific time to read. Don't be like what many people make writing look like. You only write when you have done everything else. So just say, I want to set 30 minutes of my time every day to read. And this time will be from 6 to 6:30 a.m. when I wake up. Just be consistent. Just keep your word. So just say specific time to read. Then specific time to read. And so that if you didn't read yesterday, you have a deficit. You have a deficit of a day. Then read on a daily basis. Why do you eat on a daily basis? There are many things in your life that you do on a daily basis. That should be the case for reading. Yeah. So you should 30 minutes daily. And it should be, let's say, from 6 to 6:30. I use that example because that is when I read. When I'm before the noise of the world catches up with me. I read very quietly. Yeah. And start from there. Then get an accountability partner. So reading on a daily basis, maybe it could also help. Let's say a book like this. So you say it is 128 pages. and you say, I just want to read, let's say 10 pages daily for 30 minutes. So that will take you 12 days to read if you keep your word. Yes. Yeah. So just come and read the 10 pages within the 30 minutes and then leave it at that. Tomorrow the same. The next day the same. You just keep at it. So you read on a daily basis, and then coupled with the other recommendations, a book recommendation from your friend or from your mentor, and then you read it at a specific time. Then other ideas would be get an accountability partner. So get someone who is a reader to just maybe check whether you are reading on a daily basis and within the time you set as you always wish. Then make notes when reading. So you have a notebook. This is a habit that I inculcated since 2013. So I have notebooks like this. So once in a while, I just look at them and just remember, I was reading this book at this time. Quite interesting. So the fourth step is to get an accountability partner, someone who's been reading, just to ask you, have you read? Have you kept your word? If you wanted to read daily, have you done that? Yeah, so an accountability partner also can be, let's say, an organization. Let's say like Writers Guild, we have structures to encourage people to read. Yeah? So we have a book club within Writers Guild. So such ones, or we have structures where you maybe set a target and then someone helps you to follow up to achieve it. So such ones, you could have any kind of support or accountability to help you read, because we are weaker than we think. You could have very good intentions, but you don't end up doing them. Then the sixth is join a book club and generally be on the know regarding books. So when you see an author coming to a signed book somewhere, Writers Guild, we always have them. Every other Saturday we have a book related activity here at the bookshop, which is at Hazina Towers, ground floor, suite 2A. So you can pass by on Saturday, interact with an author, ask them, how did you write? Tell me about it. Sometimes when we connect with the person, we connect more with the book. Yeah, and the book makes more sense. You say, now I see. Okay, then the next is, write book reviews. Once you've read a book, you can write and post in your status, post in your Facebook, or whichever platform that you have. Sometimes we are a bit mean with what we post. Maybe we post other things, but we are very mean to books. So you can write a review and write there and post there so that you create a conversation around that area. Then also set reading targets. Many people have these targets of, I want to read one book a month or one book in 2 weeks. There was a time we were running a program called One Book a Month, encouraging you to read just one book in a month. And you were asking, is that too much to ask? Maybe I could ask you the same. Is that too much to ask? Just one book a month. So a month has, let's say, 30 days. And of the 30 days, you will be reading for, let's say, 5 days of the 30 days, you will not be reading. So let's see, 125 divided by 25. That will mean that you just read 4 pages. 4 pages per day. So just 4 pages per day. So you need to have reading targets. And then the next step is to carry a book everywhere you go. Everywhere you go. So if I looked at your past now, I hope I'll get a book. You do, Well done. And I hope that is the same case for you. Whatever you do or wherever you go, have a book. So that if you're waiting for someone at a reception, your phone is an option, but a book should also be an option. When you are using a public transport, the same can be the case. In a taxi, possibly the same can be a case. When you're traveling, the thing is, if you have a book, at least you will think that, let me reach out to it. Maybe your phone has gone off and then you have an option. So carry a book everywhere you go. And then the last step that we recommend is reward yourself for reading. Reward yourself for reading. So how do you do this? Let books be part of the discussion. I'm always very happy. Let's say if when someone gifts me a book on my birthday, when you're celebrating an anniversary, such things, let's include books in our good moments. So let's say when you're dating and you've gone out there with your gentleman, You see, carry a book, carry a book, gift him a book. When your cousins or nieces are celebrating their birthdays, a cake is a good option, but a book will be better. So find a way to reward yourself and to reward others using books. And also for you, every other time you finish reading a book, why not take yourself out to celebrate that milestone? So those are the steps that we recommend here at Writers Guild to help you start reading. We also have another to help you start writing, and maybe you need to visit Writers Guild to get that. But for now, I give you the power to read.
Thank you so much. I'll be a beneficiary of these tips.
Well done.
Because reading has been a challenge. It's not easy to read, you know, and I'm so glad that you're helping people with these tips. So, how do you have shared the physical location of the library? Hazina Towers, ground floor, suite
2A.
Suite 2A. Your social media handles?
Yeah, all our social media handles at Writers Guild Kenya. Yeah, so at Writers Guild Kenya on Facebook, at Writers Guild Kenya on Instagram, Writers Guild Kenya on Twitter,
YouTube,
and at Writers Guild Kenya, and at Writers Guild Kenya on LinkedIn.
Beautiful. Do you have any parting shot for us?
Thank you. My parting shot is to emphasize what I said earlier. We all have our stories. Consider telling your story. While there are many ways you can do it through video, you can do it through podcast, you can do it through many ways. But we recommend books, writing your story, because it is timeless. It is not as much affected by changes in technology. And a book will be a gift for the future generation. So let's stop robbing our future generations of our very nice experiences, our sometimes traumatic experiences. Let us share our stories. We all have stories to share. Let us be confident to share them with the world.
As if I've heard from Gabriel, you should stop robbing your generations. Just write. Everybody can write. Everybody has a story to tell. So what are you waiting for? Visit Writers Guild and get the guidance around it.
We look forward to having you and to reading your story.
Thank you so much, Gabriel. It indeed has been a pleasure having you.
Well, I'm grateful. I'm grateful to Africa Rising and to all the great people making the steps to tell our stories. Thank you. Thank you to the whole team, Sylvester, Beryl, and everyone who is working behind the scenes to tell the good stories from Africa. May we do more.